Hi everyone, welcome back in, welcome to another one. It's been a week since the last one, and just did that little quick lap of the TT course, and everyone seemed to have really enjoyed that for some crazy reason. I thought it was okay, but you guys seem to have loved it, so let's carry on with another one. So just another week's gone by, another week of getting things ready for the TT. So let's just have an update on where we're at. Let's go. Yeah, so a bit of an update on what we've been up to for the last week. Majority of the week just been normal day-to-day life, but at the weekend we went up to the hospital and we had our annual meeting with the medical crew, the AirMed team, and the doctors who'll be on the AirMed crew for TT this year. There's a few new doctors this year who may start trackside, move on to the medical cars, and then eventually get onto the helicopter. So it's good for us to go and meet those people and see who they are, and so it's not a stranger in the event of an accident. AirMed called, and it's nice to put a face to a name and be able to have a bit more of a personal relationship with them, as soon as we do work with them quite closely when the event's on. It's a great refresher for us as well to go up there and run through some of the procedures. We also get updates on any procedure changes. So year on year, and if I can compare from the first year I did it to now, things have changed a lot. But year on year, they can even be quite, varied changes that they do in terms of the way they look after riders in certain situations, and if we need to know if their procedures are going to change. So we're all on the same page basically when it comes down to it. And sometimes they'll have different things they want us to do in certain situations. Obviously not go into details of them, but if A, B and C happens, we now want you to do this when we used to get to do that. So it's just a good refresher for everybody to get on the same page. Also for us, although we've been doing this a long time, me and myself have been doing it 8 years, and I can't believe it's been 8 years. And we are accustomed to the way things operate. We're still only doing it for 4 weeks of the year, out of the whole year. So it's not that it slips your mind, but it's just good to have that refresher. It's good to have that refresher before the event and try and get your head into that sort of place before first practice comes and you might be needed. So yeah, that's what we got up to on Sunday. After we'd finished, we all got our gear for our bags. So at the end of the year, we'll obviously keep our bag and the plate as the bikes go back to Honda. We keep the bag itself. The medical kit goes back to the team to be refreshed. So anything that expires gets changed. Any new stuff that comes in that we're meant to be using will be put in. So Tony handles all our bags on Sunday as well, with all our gear in for the year, and we'll have a look through them and just get familiar with where everything is. So if you go to an incident, you need something, you know where it is in your bag. Also, last year we got a hold of our nice yellow RST gloves, black and yellow, but just a little bit of. I'm gonna brand that TM yellow, and that matches our jackets really nicely. And they do a boot that goes with this, and so the boots have now turned up. So you can see as this year will be even more matching in terms of our outfits. Just a little thing, but yeah, we haven't had new boots for a few years. So, and obviously any racer will tell you the boots wear out, but our boots wear out in a different way. We're on our feet a lot of the time. 95% of the time we're stood on our feet, either trackside or around the grandstand, wherever we may be. We spend more time on our feet than we do on our bikes when we've got our boots on. And we have them on all day as well, so they need to be comfy, and they do wear out a little bit. So yeah, new boots to match the gloves, so a bit of new gear to go as well, so keep an eye out for us. Just wanted to do a bit of a Q&A. Like I said, last week's video, so many views, so many comments, and thanks to everyone for them, and please keep them coming in and we'll keep answering them. And I'm really trying to get some of the other boys on, and it's not that they don't want to, it's just I've talked about this before, but I just need to organise it a little bit better. Just still so busy trying to get everything sorted and do the day job, and then try and find a bit of time at the end of the day to make a couple of videos a week if I can. And Jim's so flexible in trying to get some stuff done, and we try our absolute best to try and get some stuff out for you, because like I can sit there and listen to Jim all day. Like I think there's nothing he hasn't seen, and there's loads and loads of amazing stories he can tell. It's way better than listening to me anyway. So we'll get Jim on as soon as we can. But a couple of quick ones let's get into. So if you're seeing our TM jackets, you'll see on the pocket, I don't know if you can see at the back here, there's a little number 14 on them, and people assumed that the number was something to do with who we were, to identify ourselves, because there's no other way of identifying us apart from basically our faces. If you've got your helmet on and you're just walking around, no one knows who's who. So why 14? I thought it was only 7 of you. 14 was Dan Neen's race number, and in 2018 when we lost Dan at the TT, the next year RST, who were sponsor of Dan's, sponsor of ours, they, as a mark of respect to Dan and a little way of remembering, we've got a little 14 and Dan's little font on our jackets, and I'm pleased to say that hasn't gone away yet, so long may that continue. So that's what the 14's for. Interesting one about the bike, and I love the technical stuff about the bike. People who know the fighter blades and the way the electronics and things are on them know that they have different modes. So there's 3 basic modes. There's 3 sort of default modes on the bike, just labelled 1 to 3. So 1 is basically slick mode, and that means if you're doing a track day, or even if you're going out on a nice Sunday ride, but it's a really, really nice day, you can use slick mode, and that gives you the least interference on ABS, least interference on traction control, the most power, because once you start, so like they go sort of the opposite way. So when traction control's at 1, it's the least traction control, like the most the most like non-traction. When power's on 1, that's the most power. So like 1 traction's the least traction, 1 power's the most power. So we have those both on 1. And then you can change like the way the ABS and the engine braking and things. Like I like lots of engine braking, 4-stroke rider, and I like that when I shut off, the bike slows down naturally. You sort of uses the inertia to slow down rather than feeling like you're just freewheeling. I don't like that feeling, so I like a lot of engine braking. Obviously as much power as you can get, but all the power does, it doesn't decrease the power, it limits how much power it gives you in correspondence to throttle input in the first 2 or 3 gears maybe. Once you get like 3rd or 4th gear and above, it's the same from mode 1 to mode 3. Mode 3 being the wet mode. So sorry, I'm going off again, but mode 2 is just like a normal dry mode, so it's a little bit softer. It does change the suspension as well, the general settings on these modes. And then mode 3 is like wet mode, and probably the most noticeable mode out of the 3 of them. The way the power is delivered and how soft the bike becomes. And it's amazing that you can just hit a button and the whole bike feels completely different. But the question, to get to these questions, and like take 5 minutes before I get there, but the question is, with them being on cold tyres, do we ride them on slick mode all the time, or do we run it in a different mode to account for the fact the tyres aren't hot? I've tried different variations of it, but to be honest, slick mode is, or mode 1 should we call it, is still quite intrusive on traction control. So you'll be in a corner, a fast corner, you'll get on the power and you'll see the traction control light flashing at you, and you'd think that was like it was coming in very, very early, like it was on a more sort of wet mode. And this is on the least intrusive, and it's still cutting in before you can even feel it. So even with the least intrusion of traction control, it's still quite intrusive. So yeah, I just run on slick mode all the time, unless it actually is wet or damp. And we have had those times where sessions have been stopped or called off because of wet weather, excuse me, and we've had to ride back in, and you just put it in wet mode. It just makes complete sense. That's what it's there for, and it does make a difference. But yeah, to answer the question, I just leave mine in slick mode, and I keep in that all the time unless it's wet. And that takes me on to another question. Someone was asking about tyre pressures. What pressures do we run them? And like, there's no good me sitting here saying you need to run this pressure or that pressure. Tyres vary massively depending on the type of tyre you've got, the type of bike you've got, and the type of weather, the type of riding you're doing. There's no point me saying put this in it. It doesn't mean anything to anybody apart from somebody else riding one of these at a similar sort of pace in a similar weather and everything else. But just go off the manufacturer specifications, which I think on these is a 35 psi. But what we'll do is, well, I'll run them a couple of psi lower than that, just because we do get them really, really hot, and that naturally increases the pressure anyway. So it just accounts for that little bit of, and I'd rather be that side of it than the harder side, because then you lose a little bit of feel. And then that's pretty much it in terms of the tyre pressure thing. And then people are asking about weather forecast, and we've had 2 weeks of really good weather, and last TT we had 2 weeks of really good weather followed by 2 weeks of amazing weather for TT. And they say lightning can't strike twice, and I hope it can, but it looks a little bit maybe unsettled next week, so it's too early to say. Like, the Isle of Man's such a tiny place, and the weather systems that come in off the Atlantic Ocean are so huge and so varied, you can't tell what the weather's going to do in 5 days' time. You can have a rough idea of where you're going to be, but in terms of like trying to pinpoint it, especially for certain times of day for the practice sessions, you just can't do it. So it looks okay at the moment, but honestly, until you get into Friday, Saturday, you're not going to have a clue what it's doing on Monday. So let's just wait and see. Yeah, I had a message, a comment from Will, and he wants to know about the screens. Saw the video last week. So these are some RP screens with a Z. We've had them on the bikes for the last 2 years now, and they're absolutely spot on. That extra height, obviously, for us just takes some of that wind off and makes just massive difference for the comfort of riding the bike at any kind of speed. So yeah, if you're interested in that, get on RP screens, have a look and see if they've got one for yours. Michael Smith asked a question, and he's asking, do you ride at race speed, and how do you know when the other riders are coming? So yeah, if we're going out on a live track, basically something's happened in the middle of a session, and either that's an instant that you're going to, or you're going to cover another area that needs to be filled because someone's gone to an incident elsewhere. You go on track and you ride at race speed, because there's nothing worse for a racer than coming around and finding somebody in the way who's doing half the speed of everybody else. So yeah, we'll ride as, not like we're trying to win a race, because there's a point of let's actually get to where we're going and let's not be an issue for anybody, but let's make sure we don't get in the way. And how do you know if the riders are coming? You don't really, other than in a race you have a decent idea of whereabouts you're going to slot into that race, and sometimes that can be right in with the front boys, so you know within a few miles that someone's going to be on you. It's just a case of having a glance in the mirror every so often. It's difficult when you're trying to like concentrate on what's ahead of you to look in your mirrors. It is hard, but the riders know that we're going to be on a predictable line, and we're not going to be going as quick as them. Different sometimes at the Grand Prix, especially in the slower classes, and the classics especially, where we'll be the faster bikes and we'll make sure that we pass them safely. But at the TT, the boys know where we're going to be, and they can make a pass, because it's just like passing a slow rider, and we're always prepared for that to happen. Every time we know where the likely places someone's going to pass is, and so if I'm riding around and I'm coming to a place like that, I'd expect Dean Harrison to slip underneath me, which he did once at Glen Tramon, to shout at me because I wasn't ready for it. It was like the first time one of those boys came past me at proper race speed. And yeah, some of you guys think that we're going around fast, but those boys are just on another level. Yeah, anyway. But yeah, that's pretty much it. Just a few quick questions to answer, and a little update on where we're at. So the rest of this week, there's a few more things to do. I've got to go to an official briefing on Wednesday night, and a few other little things to tidy up with, sorting some of the bikes out for the boys. Then I'll get up to the grandstand over the weekend, get signed on, hopefully pick up the new RI. I'll be showing you that, like we did last year. And then, fingers crossed, we've got good weather, and we'll be out on Monday for the first practice, and a nice long session for everyone to sort of get used to being back here, being back on the track, on the new bikes, and yeah, hopefully have a nice good session. So yeah, thanks again to everyone. Thanks for all the views, comments, questions. Keep them coming in. I'll keep answering them. We'll keep making the videos, and I promise we'll get Jim or one of the other boys on soon, so you don't have to keep listening to me. But thanks again, and I'll